Okay, I'm Prince Talito Solomons from the Solomons Air, straight from the temple where my forefather, Enrico Solomon I, that was the INQUA, fought the battles out of the temple of the great King Solomon, the British, colonial, Islams, etc. And where we originated from three kings. The one was Masiswa, the one was, and the one was Henry, Coco Solomon the first. And the HESSEQUA, how significant it started is they didn't have a king. They came to Enrico Solomon the first, which was the INQUA, which means unity, unite. And they came to him, so he formed, and that time it was with the Ataquas also, about, and out of the chosen three brothers of Icon and Siswa, they became Zulu, and who's married a Zulu queen. Enrico was the king who stepped up and led the HESSEQUAs. So that's how the INQUAs also related and became, the HESSEQUAs didn't have a leader, so they had a king that Enrico Solomon first led them. And that's how they became the HESSEQUA royal kingdom.
Okay.
Our history also goes very deep into the 1200s. And even, I think the most equivalent and significant thing is that our ancestors is crying out, and we must forget about 6 April 1652. Jan van Riebeeck is gone and done and dusted. And the reason why we have so much infights and among the royal and tribal houses, they're seeking supremacy. Everybody wants to be a supreme Kuba, which is a king, or a Kuba, which is a prince. But they don't even know how to do it now. They don't even know their proper tradition. They don't even know how to present themselves. They don't even know how to do rituals, etc. They don't know that spiritually our ancestors are crying out. That's why recently I had to go for a cleansing and Thanksgiving ceremony that was in the Goodhope Castle where everything began. And we had to set our ancestors free that were still enslaved, because if you go into their chambers, there's a dark room, and even though you see and you can feel that they were still trapped and their souls couldn't rest. How they were murdered, slaughtered. There's a slaughter room also, and all the different chambers you could feel. So we had to go and do a cleansing. So the supremacy in the promised land was to set our ancestors free.
Where is this place that you went to release your ancestors? Where were they trapped?
It was in Goodhope. You know almost Goodhope Castle.
Where?
The Goodhope Castle here in Cape Town. It's in central Cape Town. It's in Goodhope. That's why it's called Goodhope Castle in Cape Town. And a lot of our foreigners go there. Sometimes you have to pay a fee. Sometimes, but for us it's free because we have access. Because that was the fort that was built from the British, the Dutch, the DOC, and the British colonialism that kept our ancestors who fought were freedom fighters, and quite significant. The first on Robben Island that's also related and quite significant. The first prisoners was Harry Strandloper, that was a Khoisan, and that's why Strand, basically where I stand between Strand and Gordons Bay, is named after Harry the Strandloper. And Krotua, that was the first in prison that in Robben Island. But they were also tortured and kept in prison at the castle, the British colonial, the COD, the French. And Krotua was quite significant. You know the history of Krotua. You know the history.
Can you elaborate on that so that we can start teaching people on our history?
Yes, she was almost like a Winnie Mandela. She was a freedom fighter and she stood up. 6 April, when Jan van Riebeeck came here, 6 April 1652, he imprisoned her. She was the negotiator and the translator, where she learned Dutch and when she learned French and she could speak the Ngau language. That's why Krotua and Sarki Barton is quite a and revolutionaries in our history, which are monumented. And they did sweep the castle with the monuments clean, so that the true history out of our mouth out of our history, out of our recognition, out of our royal house that can prove, certify, because 2006 recognition from Kokta, which they still don't know, recognize. You know the fight between Parliament and the fight in the infights that some false royal members and tribal houses commend themselves as royal, as bloodlines, but they are not. So the other thing is also quite significant that a lot of our brothers and sisters are setting themselves up for commencement, but they don't know what the Zulus went through. It's a duration and a process that you have to prove yourself that you are blood lineage. You have to prove that you are prince. You have to prove that you are royalty. Anybody can say they are, but the commission that there's a process they go to. That's why they say there's fraudulent, and there's some members that already the government know they know who they're working with, and you have to know your tradition. You have to know how to do a now. You have to know how to do a ritual. You have to know how to present. You have to know your history, and you have to prove it.
Now tell me, there's this. How many kingdoms do you have? Because when we look at you are indigenous people of South Africa, there's so many of you. How many are you? And there's this thing that Khoisan is actually an abbreviation. There's no nation called Khoisan. What are the names of your nations?
Well, some call themselves indigenous people. Self call them aboriginals, and it linked to one thing. It's sovereignty, it's self-governance, it's self-sustainable, and it's the owners of the land. And the process is that the confusion is that government confuse the people. They know who are the owners. And when the House of National Traditional Kokta Corporate Government Traditional Affairs gave commencement, we were excluded. That's why Gator McKenzie reached out to us, because they say that the Ngonis even are Khoisans proclaim. Some Xhosas, some Zulus. And that's why he said when he was in the meeting, there was decisions going to be made. That's why we met up with him on the 19th of October at Kenilworth Racing Course Center. Because the castle, it is convenient, but that was a proper venue which government officials make use of. And he got us together when they said we are divided. We are not. Every time there was a meeting and every time decisions were made, we were excluded. We were kept from the chambers where they always made decisions for houses, for employment, for social development, and for 29 structures, portfolios on a national base, where 2 has already been taken by the Ngonis and the Zulus, and there's only 27 left, where there's supposed to be in all tribal or royal houses 10. Equality, 5 men and.
Tell me something before we get to what the government is saying. What I want to understand is that how many kingdoms do you have in your
Eastern Cape?
Yeah, not in the Eastern Cape. Remember, we have the Zulus. They can tell how many kingdoms they have. We have Sotus. They can tell how many kingdoms they have. Tswanas.
Basically,
how many do you have, and what are their names? Which and your languages?
It's the Nama language that the Namaqualanders speak. They are basically in Northern Cape, as you know.
Yeah.
And Okip. Then you get the new language, Omakatrina. Then you get there's a lot of languages. Only themselves can proclaim and speak and give their history. I can speak for myself. I can say I'm a HESSEQua. I can say that my forefathers came together with Doornskraal, kom by mekaar op uw kopie, where the chiefs and the kings and queens came together, all of them. But basically now, as I understand, under umbrella, there's 73 tribal, where there's the royal and tribal and sub-tribe.
73, that's the name.
Yeah, under umbrella.
Okay.
So I can't even name all of them.
Okay.
But here's the thing. You get HESSEQUA, you get HAMCUMQUA, you get HESSEQUA, you get HESSEQUA, you get HAMCUMQUA, You get Koranas. There's a lot. There's a lot. I can go on and on and on.
Mm.
But like that's why government established committees for each and everyone. The same process that the Zulus went through. But the thing is, they're doing it unfairly, and they, like I said, decisions made, and we weren't actually. And our queen, like Queen, what's her name from Pretoria, Letta, or what's her name, Anela, she was there outside, and they didn't want us to go. We did tell Gaten McKenzie, and then he said, but that's why he's extending his hand and helping us for the. And he mentioned that there is 29 national portfolios for committees where there's going to be given transport, where there's going to be given commencement to us, where there's going to be given job opportunities, financial support, because he said the GNU, the new GNU that was established, is going to compensate to all traditional and cultural members. That should have been done in the first place.
Now tell me, there's this guy. He calls himself King of Everybody, Edgar Brown.
King S.
How do you
Edgar Brown.
guys? Yes, which clan is he, and how do you guys fit with him? Because he's saying he's the sovereign of South Africa.
Well, like I said before, I can say that I'm HAMCUMQUA son. I'm the sovereign king. I know him. I know King Brown.
Mm.
I used to, when I was younger, I went undercover and as a chief, and I got to know of him. But more blood lineage of the Zulu. He can speak Zulu fluently, also, as you know. But I'm not gonna base about nobody. The end of the day, like I told you, there's a process through the commission. There's a process as in the community. If you say you're a chief, if you say a headman, if you say you're a king, a queen, you have to prove it through DNA analysis, blood test, and you have to be certified like we. I've got a certificate to prove, and we fought COCTA, and we did got commencement that they of our royalty and blood lineage 2016. I can even send you the proof also. And all of us, the 9 provinces, know about us in Namibia, etc. They know about us, and like me and you, acquainted also. So the proof is in the pudding. Everybody can say that they are king, they are royal blood lineage, they are sub-tribe, but the proof is in you have to prove through certificate and through DNA analysis.
Now,
where there in Cape Town is also a laboratory where you can take tests, and then they come back to you and then test the same like where you draw blood, then to prove are you Khoisan, are you besides being a certificate, what does the DNA analysis is 75% or I think that's the minimum maximum percentage, 65 or 55%. Is it are you bloodlines? Are you real? Are you say like just like Nguni will say is Nguni? They have to prove. They have to go through the process. A Zulu kingdom, they have to go through the process.